China, you're not going to know there's a recession. In the U.S., you're not going to care. But it will certainly have an effect. But remember, Mark, there are 3 billion people in Asia. They were not playing the game the last time. 30 years ago, Mao Zedong was still ruining China. India was being ruined by Indira Gandhi and Nehru. East and West Pakistan had just had a big split. It's now Bangladesh and Pakistan. Vietnam had been destroyed by war. That's 3 billion people who were just on subsistence level economies 30 years ago. The world has changed dramatically in those 30 years. And yes, we may have slowdowns in the world, including in Asia, but it's not going to be like before.
And does the same logic for agricultural commodities, Jim, apply for the metals? You know, as you say, the demand is going to be strong in those BRIC countries, particularly China and India. Does the same logic apply for the metals?
Well, I own them. Nickel went up 6 or 7. Lead, all of them went up huge percentages, 600-700%. Most of them are starting to consolidate now. Nickel went down nearly 50% in its consolidation. Let them consolidate some more. Let people get tired of them. Let people think that the bull market's over. Then it's probably time to start buying metals again. I am not buying base metals again at the moment, but there are probably going to be great opportunities in a year or two.
Jim, talk to me about the impact of biofuels on the market and that sort of the balance of fuels versus food.
Well, there's no question we're going to have biofuels. We're going to have ethanol. Ethanol does not solve the world's energy problems. In many ways, it makes our problems much worse because ethanol is not a good source of energy, and it takes a lot of energy to produce it. Having said that, the politicians love it. They can pay off their farmer friends. They can buy votes. They can buy votes from their friends who build ethanol plants. They can bash the evil foreigners, the evil Arabs. So the politicians love it. So it's coming. It does, as you point out, a lot of our farm products now are going into our gas tanks, into our petrol tanks. People are burning their corn. People are burning their sugar. So that means fewer hectares for other products. It means it's one reason the price of energy is going higher. And by the way, Mark, if you want to buy oil or energy, I would suggest you buy either sugar or cotton, because sugar, which is 85% below its all-time high, is going to be converted into petrol. No question about that. Or cotton. Cotton, people used to make synthetic textiles or apparel out of which comes from oil, which comes from natural gas and oil. The price of oil is at an all-time high. So if you want to buy oil, buy cotton instead, because people are going to start substituting natural fibers for the synthetics again.
Jim, sugar didn't have the best of 2007s compared to the other agricultural commodities. Why was that, and why should this year be any different?
Well, sugar had one reason it didn't have such a great 2007 is because it had a great 2005 and 2006, 2004, 5, and 6. Went up a great deal, sugar nearly quadrupled, then it had a reaction. That's the way markets work. It went down 50%, it's corrected. It's probably going to start going up again, in my view, either this year or next year. That's how markets work. When sugar went up 400% in 4 or 5 years, people started saying, hey, we're going to cut back on the use of sugar. We're going to produce more sugar. Sugar went down. Now it's corrected. Think about buying it again.
China and India we were talking about before, Jim, and you were saying how there's going to be more demand, especially from the middle classes, for the likes of cocoa, for the likes of chocolate. But what about livestock feed? As these countries get richer, populations, as we know, are going to eat more meat. Where's all the extra grain going to come from?
It's going to come from higher prices. It's going to take a long time to bring more supply to market. As I told you before, the number of hectares devoted to wheat farming alone has been declining for over 30 years. The only thing that's going to solve this problem is much higher prices. That eventually will bring out a lot more new supply. That eventually will cut demand, but it's going to take a long time. And Mark, we haven't had any major worldwide droughts in a long time. We used to have them fairly regularly. We used to have them in clusters, in fact. Maybe 2 out of every 6 years or something would be big drought years. We haven't had major worldwide droughts in a long time. Suppose we start having droughts again with inventories at the lowest level since 1972. Agriculture prices can skyrocket. They have in the past.
What is the best way? What's the most simple way? It's never simple, but let's try and make it simple. What's the best way of investing in agricultural commodities?
Well, You said it before. Many studies have shown that the best way for most investors is to invest in an index. We all know that index investing outperforms 80% of active managers year after year after year. It's a sad commentary on the investment community, but it is a fact. So for most people, you should invest in an index. That's the way I do it myself. I'm not trying anymore to sit around and be the fastest kid on the block. I just buy my agricultural, these days I buy the agricultural index, the Rogers Agricultural Index, because in my view, agricultural prices are going to double, triple, quadruple. The Commerce Bank says 3 years. They don't know what they're talking about. This is going to go on for a decade or so. This has plenty of time to go.
Why do you think Commerzbank have got it all wrong?
Because if they're talking about a 3-year bull market, then how's that going to solve our problem? You're going to need much more than that to bring new production into the market. If things go up for 2 or 3 years, farmers aren't going to completely change their lifestyles. They're not going to go out and buy new land, clear forest, or anything else. They're going to think it's a fluke. The only thing that's going to change production significantly is to have high prices for a long period of time. Then you will have a lot of land coming back into production. Then you will have people changing their consumption patterns. 2 or 3 years won't do it.
Jim, some companies buy up land in Russia. One of those is Black Earth. Some are farm equipment companies. Are these the sort of companies we should be looking at?
Well, if you want to invest in stocks, yes, some of them will do well. But remember that the studies all show that you would have made 300% more investing in commodities themselves rather than commodity stocks over the past 45 years. With stocks, you have to worry about management, stock markets, unions, environmentalists, governments, balance sheets, pension, hundreds of things. Commodities are pretty dumb. You just have to worry about supply and demand. If you're good at buying these stocks, do it. But otherwise, commodities themselves or indexes are the best way.
Jim, in a word, favorite agricultural commodity for 2008?
I'm not smart enough to tell. Buy the Rogers commodity, the Rogers